Right, Joseph Pyfer, I'm going to have to call him his full name from now on, against Jack Hermansson. I'm sorry to say this, but Joe Pyfer digged a massive hole for himself with all the media. Not just this fight. You've got people on his Instagram who have lost bets, raging at him, people saying, don't be like Joe Pyfer, laughing emoji, and he's just getting rinsed. And obviously, when you lose a fight and people have bet on you, that will happen sometimes, but it seems worse than that because of things like, what did he say again? Oh, some of these middleweights aren't even that good. And then you go up against Jack Hermansson, who isn't even in the top 10. He will be very soon, but he's like 11 ranked, and he beats you in a 5-round decision, and you're saying that a lot of these middleweights aren't that good. He would absolutely struggle when he comes up against these guys with good cardio. For example, what's his name? Sean Strickland, obviously, we all know would beat him, but I'm getting concerns for his cardio because most of his fights end in the first or the second round. He never goes to the 5 rounds. He lost to Dustin Stoltzfus. Abbas Magomedov beat him. I'm joking, by the way. Like, that was a fluke. Should never have happened, but it did happen. And not only that, it was the fact that he started off very well, and that's what Joe Pyfer obviously was going to do. If you were going to put a bet on who's going to win the first round, it's always going to be Joseph Pyfer, because you see what he does. A hook. That is his game plan. Like Darren Till, all I want to do is throw 1-2, 1-2, and when it doesn't work, he has no other option. And that is why that is a problem, because Jack Hermansson showed again today that he has got a high fight IQ. That Roman Dolidze thing, that was all because of grappling. Like, on the feet, he was beating Roman Dolidze. And he's done what he did against Chris Curtis to Joseph Pyfer, but he did it in the later rounds. For example, round 2, you're starting to notice that Jack Hermansson, his guard is improving. And you'll notice that Joseph Pyfer, his accuracy is really not that good. Like, you look at the punches and they look heavy on Jack Hermansson, but deep down they're not heavy. All they are shots that are grazing the guard and hitting the arms. It's like you're fighting Sean Strickland. He's blocking with the arms. You're not even like rattling his hand into his head. You are literally hitting the arms and missing and doing no damage whatsoever. And all that's allowing Jack Hermansson to do now is he's noticing, oh, he's not hurting me, he's grazing the arms. Let me push him backwards. And he pushes Joseph Pyfer backwards. And when Pyfer's going backwards, I'm sorry to say this, but there is no head movement or footwork. And another thing I've noticed with guys who, if they don't have good head movement, it's rare, but it can happen where they're going to have good footwork. Like, look at guys like Max Holloway. I know it's a completely different division, but people who have got good footwork, usually, they'll tend to move their head. Like Jack Hermansson, you might not notice it, but he's always moving. His cardio is extremely underrated. He's moving his head constantly. He's always moving his body. His footwork don't really look amazing. It's simple, but it's effective. And it's just the basic striking strategy that works against guys who just want to press you or are just going to wait on you every minute. And with Pyfer just constantly walking him down, and I've said it before, guys who like to walk people down, a lot of them don't move their head, and I've found out that Pyfer is one of them guys. So realistically, I want to see him fight a guy like Gregory Rodriguez, because with a guy like Gregory Rodriguez, he can take a punch. He's got a good recovery at times. Look at that fight with Chidian Choukwani. His face was like busted open. You could see like the bone on his brow ridge, and he still carried on fighting. So that would be a good type of war if he can make that a 5-rounder, hopefully. Or even give him, some people would say, a Jong-Yong Park. But anyways, round 3, it just kept getting worse for him. Like, Jack Hermansson started to land that left hook that Pyfer was trying to land throughout the fight. And because Joseph Pyfer, again, no head movement, you were coming forward with just not even a jab, so that's even more impressive. He's not protecting the right-hand side of his chin, because every time he lunges forward to throw that cross, Jack Hermansson, because he's being defensive at times, trying to counter and then pushing you backwards, he's able to catch him with that left hook as Hermansson's looking to throw that cross, and it's doing damage. Nothing significant, but it's doing damage. And it's that small jab that he throws. It's actually hard to notice it, but when he throws that jab, it does damage to the eye, because when you throw a jab, with a guy with no head movement to the left-hand side of the eye, I mean the right-hand side of the eye, it's eventually going to close, and it looked like an eye poke at first, which you probably thought it was, but it wasn't. It was just damage to that eye. It was just the clean jab, which he continued to target. Not one of these guys who's like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to keep pushing you backwards and not attack that target area. He was still using the hook, Jack Hermansson, and jabbing that eye, moving to the left-hand side, trying to attack that eye. Take away the vision by Jack Hermansson. And the leg kicks as well. It was like, actually, in a weird way, he was beating him up at times. Like, Joseph Pyfer's a boxer who stands very heavy on that front leg. All Jack Hermansson needed to do was attack that lead leg. Not even with inside punches. I mean, inside kicks. He had to use the outside because you can generate more power, but the disadvantage with doing that is it's not really going to open up the strikes to the head compared to throwing like an inside leg kick with your lead leg and then setting up your strikes with your hands to the head. But you could see at times that Joseph Pyfer, and whilst this damage was happening, it was like in round 4, I believe it was, his head was just getting jabbed completely. You had Joe's Pyfer in the corner, and I thought he was going to sit down at one point because near the end of the round also, what was it? Joseph Pyfer is just panicking, and you can see the inexperience. When a guy is inexperienced, not a fraud yet, but when you are unexperienced, you do things like what Conor McGregor did against Nate Diaz. You get him beaten up a little bit now, and you're trying to do everything in your power. Just shoot on them. But you can't because Jack Hermansson's a wrestler who knows how to defend takedowns well. You can do it to Abdel Razak Al Hassan because that guy, no offence to him, but it's a low level. Nothing special. He's just a brawler. He's just a striker. He can't really wrestle that well. He can clinch you, and that's another thing I want to talk about. Joe Pyfer did not use that clinch enough. Like, he should have known that Jack Hermansson's trying to jab me, he's trying to leg kick me. Let me get close. Let me move my head off the centre line. Let me grab on top of you. Well, not on top of you, but get my underhooking. Get you against the cage. And look to knee you there instead of just going for, what was it? The Rashad Evans. Look for the overhand and then grab low takedown. I don't know what it's called. Someone can remind me if you can. And then you could have got the takedown, but he decided not to. And then round 5, experience comes in again. Jack Hermansson knows, if I win this round, I win the fight. So what does he do? Okay, he starts messing about on the feet. Joe Pyfer's backing up a little bit like he's timid, like a child. And then he comes forward. And then Jack Hermansson's able to get that takedown. And because Jack Hermansson is not gassed, he's got good cardio, Pyfer's slowing down, he can't defend the takedown. And Jack Hermansson's a good wrestler. Put all of them together, compound effect, puts him down. And at that point, you could have turned off the screen and knew what the result would have been, because there was no way, once Hermansson got him down to the ground, that Joe Pyfer was going to get back up, because he's got extremely good top mount control. He wasn't looking to do anything risky. He was looking to be active, but he had him in such a compromised position. He's gassed out, he's cut up, and he was just elbowing him on the ground. And Joseph Pyfer, at the start, like I believe in the first round, he was doing more damage to Hermansson. But why was his face so like cut up? Like he had a cut in his chest. That might have been before the fight, but still, he looked more beat up in the first round than Jack Hermansson did. Even though when he was hitting Jack Hermansson, he kind of looked like stumbled and wobbled compared to when Hermansson hits a guy like Pyfer. He's not really wobbling him, but he's snapping his head back. He's making that chin come up into the air. But anyways, he's had his first 5-round main event, which is good. So it's a good learning experience. We've got to remember he's young, but there was a lot of concerning things in that fight regarding the cardio. But one thing I'll say about him, he's got good durability, because he could have easily quit. Like when he got jabbed in the eye and his eye was hurting, he could have just done a Daniel Dubois, went down on one knee. He could have just dropped to the ground like Michael Johnson against Gaethje and just quit. But no, he doesn't. And I feel stupid for picking Joseph Pyfer, but it was all the hype. I don't know what it was, like breaking the Ngannou power record. And you've got people trolling him about that. Like, where was that power in this fight? Like, that power didn't translate in a fight like this. But Jack Hermansson can be a hard guy to finish. Jared Cannonier did it. But even then, he doesn't get finished all the time. And if he does, it's not by like a flatline knockout. Roman Dolidze ground. He got him in a position where the fight's over. He might as well have tapped out from that position because you can't move. You were trapped. So it's not a thing where he had a bad chin. It was the fact that he was just done in that position. And right in this fight here, we saw he could take a punch. But we saw how defensive and how tight his guard was, which allowed him not to take anything significant. And even post-event, he did say, all credit to Jack, but when he brought up, I didn't really notice a difference, really. It was mainly the calf kicks, but it wasn't just the calf kicks. I would argue it was the boxing he was struggling with, as well as the calf kicks, because you were seeing that Jack Hermansson, he's not like an extremely good head movement guy, but he's always moving his head off the centre line. There's better head movement than there was with Pyfer, and even then, he was still jabbing his head. Like, if you want to talk about boxing, all Pyfer had was a hook. He didn't even drop him in the fight. So to say that it wasn't really the boxing as well, which was a problem, it really was, because Jack Hermansson, he didn't even go out there looking to grapple, which is what I thought he would have done. He went to go toe-to-toe with you after the first round. Well, not really toe-to-toe, but he went after you in the second round and started putting the pressure on him. And then, obviously, you'll go back at times, but there was pressure from Hermansson. It weren't just scared, I'm not going to engage with you. He was going first. When Hermansson was going first with the jab, he was landing. Same with Pyfer. It was about who's going to go first more often. Hermansson did it. Pyfer decided to be like, nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to wait at times, and then when there's an opportunity, I'm not going to throw a jab to set up anything. I'm just going to throw the cross. And that's another thing. He should have used the jab more, or even use like his lead hand to measure the distance and then follow up to the head. Because those body shots were useless. They usually should be good. Like when you get hit to the body, especially with power crosses, it should take something out of you. But Hermansson having that great cardio, for taking like a year out of the sport as well, it makes you think, is he taking EPO? I'm joking, obviously not. And I am also hearing some people saying his coaching team didn't give him the best advice. So like saying, oh, don't make him comfortable. And some people would be like, well, what does that mean? Don't make him comfortable. You would have thought they would have said, like, you need to start using your jab more often, or something like, you need to clinch onto him when he comes into the pocket. You need to mix up some elbows in the clinch, or something like that, instead of don't make him comfortable. That's like saying to someone, oh, you just need to do a bit better in the corner. It doesn't mean anything. It's not really great advice, but obviously you shouldn't leave the coaches because of that. But I'm just saying the corner didn't really help too much in that regards. They're there to just do their job anyway and help him. Like, they probably didn't know what to say after watching that. But one thing I'll say is it's not as bad as the Mike Malott situation, because he wasn't winning the fight until like the last second of the round and then got finished. If that happened, well then he would be Mike Malott .2. But I know this would be too much of a push, but a Roman Dolidze, they both have similar levels of cardio, but a problem would be if Roman Dolidze got him down. But then again, his striking on the feet is nowhere near as good as Pyfer's, but that would be like a very pushy type of fight to do. And another thing, they need to stop fast tracking these fighters, because you see that. Now, you know what, I'll talk about that another time, but fast tracking these young guys straight into these like main events and against a ranked guy instead of building it up and taking more of a slow progression. I feel like Joe Pyfer's kind of been rushed a little bit. And yeah, that's what I've got to say about it. Nothing more. I'm just like, that's just my 100% pick main event record in the bin already. I wish I had picked Hermansson. It made more sense on paper logically. Just like Abbas Magomed Strickland. Strickland made the most sense logically, and I have not learned. So yeah. Unfortunate for Pyfer, but he will be back, hopefully. Right, that's it. Thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.